The drum that would not sound, as told by Obinna, the palm wine tapper of Ogwugwu. If you ever find yourself walking the red earth paths of Ogwugwu, past the ancient iroko trees and the cassava farms that sprawl like a patchwork mat, you might hear whispers about the silent drum. The elders don't speak of it often, but some nights, when the moon is high and the air heavy with palm wine, stories slip through their lips like smoke. But I won't tell you what they say. I will tell you what I saw. It was the year the rains delayed. The sky was dry and the yams didn't swell as they should. People grew anxious, especially because that year was also when we were to hold the Ike Uzu, the festival of our ancestors. It comes once every 5 years when the moon aligns with a certain star. The elders know more about that. But what matters is that during that festival, the sacred drum must be played to invite the spirits of our forefathers. Without it, no prayers rise and no blessings fall. The drum Ojen Namo had been carved long before I was born. They said it was made from the heartwood of a tree struck by lightning. Only such a tree could carry the voice of spirits. No one played it except the chosen drummers from the Umu Ojini clan, and even they only played it during the festival. The drum was kept inside the shrine beside the river, where only the chief priest and the head drummer held the keys. On the morning of the festival, I was among those who arrived early at the village square. I remember the smell of roasted maize in the air, women tying gil around their heads, young boys chasing each other with carved wooden swords, and old men seated under the kola tree sipping from calabashes. Then the drummers came. We watched as they opened the shrine. The head drummer, Daik, a man with hands as calloused as the bark of a baobab, knelt before the drum, whispered the incantations and placed his fingers on the hide stretched across the wood. He raised his arm and struck. Nothing. He struck again. Silence. At first we thought it was a mistake. Perhaps the strings were too loose or the skin had dried. But they tried again and again. Nothing. Not even a thump. It was as if the drum had died. Murmurs spread like bushfire. But no one really knew. Still everyone respected him. After all, it was his father who carved Ojene Nemo. So when the elders decided to fetch him, no one objected. I was there when they brought him to the square. Thin with a beard white as egret feathers, he walked slowly, holding a staff he had carved himself. When he stood before the drum, he placed one hand on its surface and closed his eyes, and then he spoke. His voice was like dry leaves in harmattan wind. "The drum will not sound," he said, "because it carries a wound. Someone here betrayed a blood oath made in the year of the black moon. You could have heard an ant crawl, but no one really knew. Still everyone respected him. After all, it was his father who carved Ojene Nemo. So when the elders decided to fetch him, no one objected. I was there when they brought him to the square. Thin with a beard white as egret feathers, he walked slowly, holding a staff he had carved himself. When he stood before the drum, he placed one hand on its surface and closed his eyes, and then he spoke. His voice was like dry leaves in harmattan wind. "The drum will not sound," he said, "because it carries a wound. Someone here betrayed a blood oath made in the year of the black moon. You could have heard an ant crawl. People looked around. No one moved. The drummers stood frozen, their hands hanging mid-air. "What oath?" the chief asked. Anna Anika turned and pointed, not at anyone, but at the crowd. "The oath was made in secret, but the drum remembers. Until the truth is spoken, it will remain silent." I tell you, that moment changed everything. The festival was halted. Drums that once echoed through our valley remained mute. The masquerades stayed in their houses, and suspicion began to fester like an untreated wound. Over the next days, confessions began to surface. A woman admitted to hiding her sister's child to take her husband's land. The hunter confessed that he led his friend to a trap because he envied his skill. Each day more secrets came out, but still, the drum did not sound. Then on the 7th day, just before dawn, the head drummer Dyke came to the elders, his eyes hollow. He confessed. 12 years ago, during the last festival, a stranger from a neighboring village had come to Ogwugwu. The man was a drummer, skilled and strong. He challenged Dyke, saying he could awaken the drum better than any son of Umu Ogin. In his pride, Dyke accepted. They held a secret contest at night in the shrine. But the stranger was better. Dyke struck him with a staff. The man fell and hit his head on the shrine stone. He died before he could cry out. Afraid, Dyke buried the body near the river and took a blood oath with the 2 other drummers who had watched. "Speak and your tongue will rot," they had sworn, cutting their palms and pressing them to the drum itself, believing no one would ever know. But the drum remembered. That night, the elders retrieved the body where Dyke said it would be. The bones were still there, wrapped in the stranger's patterned cloth. The next morning, they called Anna Anika again. He returned to the square, looked at the drum and said only, "Now it may speak." Dyke was taken to the river to answer for his crime. The other 2 drummers left the village never to return. At the next Ike Uzu, the drum sounded again, deep, powerful, like thunder, walking through our bones. Since then, every time I hear that drum, I think of how truth has its own way of rising. Even if it hides in silence, it waits. And in Ogwugwu, we learned that no matter how deep you bury a secret, the earth, the river, even the drum will one day speak it aloud.